Pathmonk is the AI for website conversions. With increasing online competition, over 98% of website visitors don't convert. The ability to successfully show your value proposition and support visitors in the buying journey separates you from the competition online. Pathmonk qualifies and converts leads on your website by figuring out where they are in the buying journey and influencing them in key decision moments with relevant micro experiences like case studies, intro videos, and much more. Stay relevant to your visitors and increase conversions by 50% by number one, adding Pathmonk to your website in seconds. Number two, letting the AI do all the work. And number three, increase conversions while you keep doing marketing as usual. Check us out on pathmonk.com. Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Pathmonk Presents. Today, we're joined by John. He's the CEO of Rescue7. John is the man you want to speak to when it comes to rescue and safety. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Excited to speak to you, John. And maybe we start with the basics. We start about, talking about Rescue7. What's the big idea behind your company? And if you were to explain what you do to a friend over coffee, how would you describe what you do?
So I started Rescue7 28 years ago. I was a firefighter with the city of Toronto in Canada here. And we were going to many calls out on our truck where people were in distress, whether it was a medical or emergency, and people would be standing around that person lying on the ground, not knowing what to do. And I thought we need to educate people more about what to do in emergency situations until we get EMS on site. So I started Rescue7 primarily as a training organization for first aid training, and I wanted to train the masses because the more you know, the more you fight, the less you know, the more you flight. So I thought that would help a lot in saving lives. And as we went along, we progressed within the next couple of years from the start. We got into the buzzword was defibrillators. And a lot of people didn't know what a defibrillator was back in the day. They couldn't, never mind say it, never mind spell it. So AEDs, as we know them short terms, automated external defibrillators, we started into that market and working with public access defibrillators and trying to put them into the public places as much as possible, because we have found that somebody that goes into cardiac arrest, which in Canada here, we did a study, happens to approximately 60,000 people yearly, they go into that cardiac arrest and they aren't defibrillated within 10 minutes, their chances of survival are not very good. For every minute you don't defibrillate somebody in cardiac arrest, their chances of survival decrease by 10%. So we got into the AED market. We now have over 60,000 defibrillators deployed around Canada. Mostly the B2B market, the business to business, but now we're going after the consumer market where we think they should be in homes because they're just as important, if not more important, than fire extinguishers. So we got the training side and we got the product side that we work with here at Rescue7.
Amazing. Thanks for the overview. And John, I'm curious, you just touched on it, right? Talking about the care homes and whatnot, but are there any certain type of businesses that or industries even where you feel your products really shine, or there's more need for them even at the moment?
It's a good question. I think they shine everywhere. It doesn't matter what kind of business you're in. Unfortunately, cardiac arrest can happen to anyone, anywhere, anytime. But we have a great success with a large fitness organization, fitness clubs that are around Canada. They have over 600 of our defibrillators on each of their locations. And just in the last year alone, we've had over 12 saves with their locations. We have our defibrillators on every major airline in Canada. We have them on in every major grocery stores in Canada. We work with government levels from federal down all the way down in the different government levels, putting the defibrillators in. And hockey teams are now putting them in, hockey rinks. We're getting the sporting events. Schools are very important because they have a lot of activity in their schools, whether it's post-secondary and it's high schools and grade schools. So I think they're important everywhere. And now, like I say, I think they're just as important in a home setting, and not just a home residential, but we also have here in Canada cottages that are like cabins that are out in the woods, and people go up there for weekends to get away from the city, and they're in a remote situation and they have an emergency. There's no ambulance coming for them with a phone call. So these little units are very, very important to have, I believe, everywhere.
Of course, yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And it's impressive that you're pretty much everywhere, sounds like, in Canada, right? to get a little bit more technical, John, this is a marketing podcast, right? So, in terms of your acquisition channels, are there any marketing channels that become your go-to for bringing in more business? In other words, how do most people discover you?
Of course, social media plays an important role for us, between LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and all of the above. With Shopify, we use Shopify, so e-commerce, so people can order right online with us and we can ship out. We have now teamed up with, in our existence, as of 4 years ago, we became part of the Safe Life group out of Europe. They're out of Sweden. And we have 46 affiliates in 16 countries that we work with. So if we have international organizations, they say, they work with us and they have headquarters here, but they're in the US, or they could be over into Europe or in the Asian market, and that we can help them and cover them off on a global spectrum. So we are out there everywhere, and we always say the social media works well with everybody, but we do trade shows and we in magazines and whatnot in podcasts. But word of mouth to me is always very important. I think it's one of the most important ways to advertise, because when you do a great job, it travels well. If you do a bad job, it travels even faster. So you want to do that good job. You want go in there, train people the way you want them to be trained, so they're comfortable. You want to give them a good product, so that when they go on to their family gatherings or whatever, and they say, "Hey, I took a course with Rescue7, or I purchased this defibrillator, and I think it's a great product." That way, we're going to get repeat business from that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And word of mouth was the first marketing channel ever invented, and it will be the last one to die, right? So
Correct.
no, that's a great point. In all of this, though, you touched on it. You said you run a Shopify. So I'm curious, how much of a role does your website play in pulling in new business, new students for your training, and generally speaking, in getting your brand out there?
Yeah, I mean, the website's very important. We have the opportunity where people can go on our website and register for a class around Canada for first aid CPR training, so they can do it right online without having to make a phone call. With regards to product, they can order right online, and we drop ship it out. They can put their credit card in, order it there, and it's good to go. So the website, and we want to keep the website fresh and updated at all times. If you go on it, each month we try to change it up and give it a fresh look. And it's also important for your Google Analytics, so that you get to the front of the line when people are searching for things like us.
Absolutely. Okay. Very interesting. Thanks for sharing that. Now, I want to switch gears for a second, John, and talk about you as a leader. So, can you give us an idea what does a typical workday look like for you, and what are the main things you focus on a day to day? It's sort of like trying to understand a day in the life of John at Rescue7.
That's an interesting question you're asking. Because to me, I don't work. Everybody asks me about how work goes, and I say I don't work. I get to actually come into an office here with my team. There's 13 of them in the headquarters here, and then we have 150 contractors around Canada. And I'm usually in the office by 7 in the morning. I come in and when people say, "How much do you work?" I say, "I don't work. I actually get to go to a sandbox and build castles with my team." I'm very passionate about what we're doing. I've been doing it for 28 years. I don't want to slow down. To us, it's all about saving lives. So every time we get that phone call where one of our defibrillators has been used and somebody's been saved, it makes the hair on my arm stand up, because if we didn't have a defibrillator out there, that person may not been going home to their family. So to me, a day in the life for me is just getting up and working with everybody to get out there and get our product and our message out there, so that more lives can be saved. I mean, our slogan is "Start today, save a life tomorrow." And we're not selling cars, we're not selling music equipment or anything like that. We're selling life-saving devices, and I think everybody should have what we have.
That's awesome. I love that. And listen, when you frame things as "I get to," as opposed to as I have to, I think that mindset itself will make work play, right? So it's just having that mindset. You go into work and things go by quickly, and it's like when you're having fun, right? So
I Sorry to interrupt you. I have four grown children now, and when they're going through their formal education, I said to them, I said, guys, I don't, it doesn't matter what you ever want to be. I'm going to support you 100%. If you want to be an electrician, if you want to be a lawyer, an airline pilot, whatever it is. But I always said to them, whatever you do in life, make sure you have a passion for it, because then you're going to love what you do, and you're going to take that and make it grow and learn and make it even better. So I think everybody, if they have that opportunity and to do what they love, then they're in a great spot.
Do what you love, have fun with it. Yeah, I love it. I love the message. Speaking of fun, we have a rapid fire segment on this podcast, John, that I love us to go through. So just a bunch of questions that essentially rapid fire style. We want to keep things light and engaging, and I want to ask you a couple things about the type of content you consume, or what you read, and if you had a magic wand that let's get into it, before I spoil it too much. But what's the type of content that you prefer consuming the most in terms of, maybe watching things or reading or listening even, if at all?
Type of I'm a sports guy. I love my sports, but documentaries are right up there on the list. I love watching documentaries of history and where we come from and how we can make it better. That would be the first one on my list right away.
Okay, fair enough. Now, it doesn't have to do with work, right? So what's the latest piece of content that you picked up? It could be a documentary, it could be, even a game, a match or something that you watched. And was there anything interesting that really stuck with you in it?
Oh, that's a tough one. Documentaries. The right now, I'm actually reading a book by it's on Pamela Harriman's account of world politics, and it's called Kingmaker. And she was actually the daughter-in-law of Winston Churchill, who then got divorced from her husband and went on to America. And I'm in the point now where she's in America and dealing with the politics on their side. I find it very interesting and engaging to learn about how she, a woman that had no formal education per se, and how she spun it to get into the political arena and have influence on world leaders and how they, shaped and made decisions. So I find that very interesting.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. That sounds really interesting, indeed. And there's Winston Churchill biography that I've been wanting to read. It's been sitting in my Kindle for a while, and now you just reminded me that that's definitely a good read. So thanks for that. John, if you had a magic wand and you could fix one frustrating thing in your life with tech, what would you pick?
AI right now. AI is so fast moving and so, all over the place. I'm just trying to get a grasp of how you can best utilize it to the advantage. I mean, the interesting part of the AI that I'm trying to discern is what is real and what's not real. My wife, she reads a lot, and she's a retired school teacher, high school teacher and educator. And she I'll come home from work some days and she'll tell me some things that's gone on, and right away I'll say, are you sure? What did you find this on what website? And was it real, or was it just AI playing with you here? And she was like, oh, I never thought of that. And so we're really trying to, it's a fast moving game with AI right now, and it's just trying to figure out how best to take, take advantage of it, but also make sure what you're seeing, you're believing is correct.
Well, that's a great point. There's a AI hallucination. There's a bunch of things that when it doesn't get things right, and it will make up studies, for example, and things like that. It's very dangerous, right? So especially if you take it for granted and say, okay, this is the truth, right? I'm not going to go deeper and double check or anything. So good point. And I think there's many of us on the same boat in terms of it's moving so quickly that how do you navigate it in the first place? So something to ponder on, 100%.
Yeah, I think
John,
technology in itself has moved so quick, right? And I mean, back in the day when I had a BlackBerry, back when the BlackBerry was, the phone to have, I remember trying to switch over to, to an iPhone or an Android, and instead of me trying to figure it out, I just go home, give it to one of my kids when they were young, and they would flip it over for me because they knew all that stuff, and we were still learning it. So
Yeah, so maybe that's who we need to turn to, right? To kids. But at the same time, I've got three kids myself, and they're little, but I don't know if I want them to go with AI right now. It's one of those things that eventually I think one day we'll look back and say maybe it needs some kind of regulation or limiting, in terms of how who can access it and what you can do with it. But overall, I'm optimistic. I'm just saying, you can do a lot with it, and there's a bunch of information that we're already finding out that's coming out that it could be harmful, right? So. Uh, I see what you mean with, you give it to the kids and they'll learn it in a day or two. Same
correct.
time, we'll see. We'll see. Uh, John, if you could go back and give your past self a quick pep talk, let's say at the start of your journey as a founder, what kind of advice would you give yourself?
It's been a great learning curve for me. 28 years. As I say, my background, I came from fire service, and I have a kinesiology background. But and one of my growing sons now is a accountant, and when he was going through school and doing his university level, he called me one time and he started using all these big words about business, and I was quiet on the phone, and he said to me, "Dad, do you understand what I'm saying?" I said, "I don't understand a word what you just said about the importing, exporting on the linear equations." And he went on, and he said, "I thought you were a business guy." And I said, "Son, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not a business guy." And it was interesting. First of all, he said, "So you've been faking it this whole time?" And I said, "Yeah, I guess I've been faking it." And then he said, "What's the difference between an entrepreneur and a business person?" And I thought that was a really interesting question he gave me, and I had to think about it. But my reply was, I think that entrepreneurs think out of the box and business people think in the box. They're structured, and I wasn't structured. So I think going back, learning business a little more, structuring it a little better as we went along might have helped me. But the biggest takeaway I've learned in business is treat people the way you want to be treated, and I think everything will roll out well. It's a simple process. Yeah, we need to make some money and stay in business, but the important aspect of it is we're all human here, and we all need to be treated equally. And I've learned that, and that's why I think I have such a great team, and they've been here with me for a long time.
That's a beautiful point. And we go back to the word of mouth, right? It's about people, it's about what they say and the connection that you have with them. So yeah, it's interesting to think about, because you can know everything, all the business stuff, and it's great, you need to know how to budget, to know, how to forecast and whatnot, but it's all about the people, right? Especially for a business like yours. So you're in the business of saving people's lives. So I appreciate that take 100%. John, I want to thank you a lot for being on the show with us today. Also, I want to give you the last word. So if someone forgets everything about the interview today and all the insights you shared with us, what is the one thing they should remember about your company?
I think treat people with respect, treat people equally, and help people. If it's just going to open a door for somebody, but when somebody's in distress, please, take notice, help them. It could get serious, and they may need your help. So, and like I say to people, anything you can do is going to help. If just calling the emergency services to get them to come and help that person helps them. If you don't know CPR, phoning and getting the instructions from the emergency services and jumping in. Anything you can do to help people, please do that. We would, the more lives we can save, the better. It's important.
Love it. That's a beautiful way to close, John. And last thing, if people want to check out Rescue7, where can they go?
Rescue7.net. So www.rescue7.net. It's our website, and all our information's on there. If they want to contact me, my email is there. Everything. I'm always open and always welcome the opportunity to talk to anybody and everybody.
Amazing. Thank you again, John, for being with us today, and I wish you a wonderful day.
Thank you very much for having me.
Of course. Bye, everyone.
Bye now.